Do you want me to
successful.
intro this at all?
Yeah, intro it. I'll interrupt.
Off to a good start already.
Yes. I'm gonna edit this in. Everyone's gonna see this.
Oh,
All right.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So welcome. You're coming in hot to our Bitcast special. So we are taking a couple weeks off. See, we're already good. A couple weeks off of Bitcast for a couple vacations. So I'm going away for a bit. Hoeg's going away for a bit. We got stuff going on. But we will be off the weeks of August 10th and August 17th. And so we figured we record this as we sit here. What's the date today? July 31st.
That's right.
And
we're July. August is but a dream.
You're supposed to make them think that that this was recorded when we're showing it. So we're going to be like, I can't believe what president did. That was crazy, And then you'll
right now that would be any day.
Yeah, we'll have a different president. We'll have like I'll talk about current events. Did you guys see in the news that was crazy, right? And then
I like the premise here demands that Travis is submitting voiceover to be edited in.
Later.
Yes.
It's like really, yeah. Like
and
later,
I'm doing the editing apparently.
I can't believe and then that happened in a really monotone voice that just comes over the top. I love it.
I remember that Simpsons episode where they were like talking about the Super Bowl and they had the Redskins joke about who was winning the Super Bowl that particular year. It's a lot of years of Simpsons. The Redskins did win at some point. The Redskins were a team, folks, in case you're not familiar.
It's been
they were
the
the Washington football team.
Yeah.
Now they are the Commanders.
Yep.
Well, we'll see.
What was I going to say? Anyway, here we are.
Yeah.
And so we figured we would give you a little special extra episode. See, I can't even speak. I'm not prepared for this tonight, apparently. But we're just going to shoot the shit, quite frankly. So that's what we're dealing with here. We got some game topics to talk about. We, the three of us often, as any regular viewer will know, we're often talking a lot before the show, sometimes too long. And so that's what we're going to get into right now. We figured there's other things we could talk about in the gaming space and not leave you hanging for a couple weeks. So here we are. What do you want to talk about?
Well, see, that's a great first subject, Ains. So you were just talking about the fact that we're constantly kibitzing, chatting before show. People who watch us regularly know that the live button doesn't get hit until 10 minutes on, 12 minutes on. Give the people a little behind the scenes. What is happening that prevents us from going live anywhere near where we tell people we're going to go live?
That's a great prompt. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's natural. Like, we don't script it, so...
Well, I think sometimes we're stalling, right? Because we know not everybody's on exactly at go time, so we're kind of letting them trickle in. That's my impression.
We're sometimes talking about pre-embargo stuff.
Well, sometimes we're talking about pre-embargo stuff, but a lot of times it feels like we're ready to go, and we're kind of just like, well, they're not all here yet, so let's chill. Like, that's my impression.
My conspiracy theory is that Ains deliberately does not like to be anywhere near the top of the hour on that button hit, and he's the only one that has the authority to do it. So I will sit there looking at the live button and saying, all right, when is Zane's going to hit this? And sometimes you look down at the clock and it's 11:15 or whatever already. And you're like, okay, he's got to do it now.
We've never been 15 minutes late.
Have we never been 15 minutes late?
I think the worst ever, because my friends track this and give me shit about it. Okay. I think it's 12 is the worst
minutes?
ever. But it's usually before 9.
All I'll say, Hoeg, is at least he trusts you to see the live button.
I said I don't have the authority.
Not have admin privileges at all. So he doesn't trust me. He can mute me. To be fair, I would abuse it. It is a very smart decision to not trust me with that kind of power.
I've hit a number of buttons, but I have never said, okay, I'm taking it under my sole authority to just hit live now. That seems a step too far for streaming partners.
Dude, if I saw a bloat goat button, I'd be hitting that like 5 times a show.
I'm looking at it.
Bloat goat.
I just love how long that thing is.
It just hangs at the end.
Anytime somebody was talking too long or I was like bored, I would hit that button just every single time.
By the way, I forgot how loud it is, and we got complaints last time for people watching that it just suddenly gets really loud with the slap. So
it's not loud for me. It just sounds kind of normal volume.
Yeah.
The thing about streaming that I don't think people fully realize, because I get this comment a lot because I'm a lawyer and I tend to project directly into the microphone at length, and people say, why are you screaming at me all the time? Is that we don't get the best kind of understanding of the various levels. Like if there's something that I could improve in StreamYard right now, it would be to actually have a widget that shows the levels in real time so that you could start adjusting things or at least be aware of them on the fly while you're recording. There are certainly a lot of programs that do that. A lot of Twitch streamers use Streamlabs and other programs that give you levels that you can monitor while you're actually recording these things. StreamYard's a great program. I like their service offering, but they do not have enough bells and whistles for the audio side of things. And I think that results in a less than perfect experience a lot of the time. And a lot of the time that's my fault because I do project directly into the microphone. And I hear it in my own stuff, folks. So you can stop leaving that comment for me. I take it well. But I have heard it at length here on the Bitcast, on my own channel at Last Stand Media. Everywhere I appear on the internet, I know that at least a certain number of you think that I am yelling at you. So in some respects, that's just the lawyer kind of archetype. In some respects, that's me. And in some respects, I am yelling at you. Do better.
That's fine, but I don't know why you're yelling about it.
Yeah, I don't see
Indeed.
it. Calm down, Hoeg. Calm
Yeah,
down, man.
yeah.
Take a breath.
Your blood
So
pressure. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, I
Breathe.
think my favorite comment from last week was Louise saying, I had seen some of your takes on the internet, but actually talking to you, you were delightful. First of all, I'm very rarely called delightful.
Yeah,
but I
would
do
never
think
call
that
you
is the impression that people get from my social media presence and the various things that I put out there into the world is that I am this very hardened, kind of specific, argumentative guy. And I really don't feel that way myself. I know Travis tries to pull that out of me every episode in various ways,
Yeah.
but I don't view myself as a terribly argumentative lawyer, although I'm trained in the arts of argumentation.
I will say, having run SG for a long time and Don Lionheart being part of it, who's also a lawyer and who came to us by knowing you, Hoeg, and watching your content, he can argue like a lawyer, or generally does argue with us, and he'll laugh listening to this, I'm sure, more than you do. So I do see that. I think where that reputation comes from you, and I told Luis this off screen, basically in our Discord, is that his only perception of you, because he hadn't interacted with you previously, was of things that had been shared, like you said, of stuff you posted. And I said, Hoeg is opinionated, but it's not meant to be. I don't know. I think there's a sliver in there that likes to ruffle feathers, but you are opinionated. And as we've talked about many times on this show, your opinions are wild. And so I think naturally that just leads to people thinking you're starting stuff when, quite frankly, you're quite a genuine and great human being. But, I think as always, there's no room for context or tone or anything else on social media. So if that's all people know of you, they assume a lot about you, when in fact, if they would just hang out with us once in a while or your channel, they would know that that's not really the case.
Yeah, pop into the Bitcast from time to time. We're all friends here. I will say that I think my takes are probably about 80% mainstream, but those takes I don't share with anybody because I don't find them terribly interesting, right? I don't think I'm adding to the conversation when I share the things that I already agree with. So I do think that the impression becomes I'm more contrarian than I am, because when I am contrarian, I think there's more interesting things for me to share.
And it creates discussion. Yeah, I think, saying this 98 rated game is a good game is rather boring and droll, right? It's like, to your point, it doesn't really do
might not make
much,
good for good content, but I mean, that kind of is my job description, right? Is like, if a game is a 98, talk about how it is.
Or a 4, apparently.
Yeah, well, that happens every once in a while. I also have that problem, by the way. I am argumentative, but I don't mean it meanly. But when I like a debate, and so I'll engage with people online occasionally, and I'm not taking it as anything other than just an exchange of differing opinions. But people, it's really hard to get that tone across online. People like, I'll show like a thread to D, and I'll be like, look, I was talking to this person about how this review concept works, and then she'll be like, you seem so mad in your messages, and I'm like, she obviously knows I'm not, because she's been married to me for a while and I've never expressed emotions at any point, but she knows. She's a lot better with like I don't know, tone or word choice or empathy. She's better at all that stuff. So
I just think sometimes you can get a blind spot. I think it's a totally useful process to sometimes show your social media posts or intended social media posts to a third party and maybe not even a spouse, but someone even further removed from you, and see what they think about what you're putting out there. I know that in the recent past, I had a post that went like pretty viral for me, not like celebrity viral or anything like that, but I didn't understand why, and people were coming at me with a certain amount of fire. And so I read my tweet to my brother, and he's like, well, yeah, Jesus Christ, Rick, you just went after everybody on this issue completely, and that you sound like a crazy person. And I'm like, do I? I'm not reading it that way. And he went over with me in great detail about how this offended these various groups. And I am someone that prides himself on tone control and understanding how things are going to be perceived by other people. But if you are hammering out a half dozen posts or tweets a day because you think you're adding something to the conversation, sometimes you're going to skip a step, you're going to write a sentence in a way that you don't intend, and people are going to take it one way or the other. And sometimes that gets kind of attributed to you as wanting to stir the pot when you don't intend it. And yes, I stir the pot plenty because I think conversation is important. I think that's how we grow as people. And I like to be out there doing that. But I don't intend for it ever to be an attack on you as a human being, you as a person. And sometimes if you take it that way, I'm going to think you're overly sensitive. But sometimes I'm going to relook at what I wrote and say, okay, yeah, I can see how you could read it that way. That's never my intent. And I think everybody on social media or making content like the ones we do here at the Bitcast could use a third-party perspective from time to time.
Yeah, my problem is I'll show it to a third party, usually just D, and she'll give me feedback on like my tone, and then I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. Unfortunately, I don't care what they think about me. Send, you know what I mean? Like that's my opinion. It's like, well, they'll probably think of you like this, and I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I don't care. I'm right. Send.
Well, I will tell you that at least a portion of the videos I make for my own channel, Mrs. Hoeg will take me aside when she sees what the topic is going to be and say, all right, are you ready for the comments? Are you ready for the maelstrom that's going to come with this particular topic? I just did one very recently that went this way. And I said, yeah, no, I think I've got this. I think it's fine. And then she will give me the lay of the land on Instagram or wherever else she's seeing things that people are already reacting to what it is that I want to talk about, and say, just be aware of these particular landmines and these pitfalls because people are taking this particular argument this way. And I know you would never mean it that way, but you want to be careful about hitting that particular button or pulling on that lever.
Yeah, I think it doesn't help. Well, one, you cover a lot of topics outside of the gaming realm. A lot of those things overlap, even incidentally, or what's perceived to be politically.
Yeah, that's right.
Which we know the environment, especially in the United States we're in right now, how charged that is. So that's a problem. And then social media in general, or content that's only one direction, where you're not getting real-time interaction, right? So you're putting something out there. It's very easy, if you want to counter that, to purposely look for areas to pick at, right? And that's what social media a lot of is. It's just like, here's this, I want to counter that. So what can I pick apart? And I don't mean to bring this up again. We can joke about this on Sunday. But I saw it with Travis's review he just posted. He just had 3 reviews, but the Tales of the Shire
4
got the most press because it's a 4 and, et cetera, et cetera. And people were very excited for that game. And so it disappointed them. But you had, it's very easy to look at that and then try to say, okay, I'm going to look at his review and I'm going to try to pick apart any little thing that I don't think was either done correctly in their mind or that doesn't seem valid or anything. And that's just the essence of social media. And that's why a lot of the conversation back and forth on social media goes nowhere, because people just do that back and forth forever till the end of time. And I agree with you, Travis. It's like, I like to have conversation when there's a willing participant on the other side, even if we disagree, and you can do that amicably. Sadly, social media doesn't necessarily fit that mold a lot of the time. And then jokes aside again, Hoeg, I think X is also a inflammatory platform as it is.
It's
now.
a hellscape.
Yeah. So you get a lot of that on top that compounds all the other factors, and it's just ripe for those types of
what I have
not
found,
even discussions.
This is my first time like the maybe past month and a half are my first time really having like engagements in Blue Sky. A lot of times I just post and then I close the app, and I don't know if anybody looks at my post about me promoting a review or whatever. This is the first time I actually engaged with people. We're in a very funny paradigm right now where when I go to X, I'll post something and like all my responses will be people just like calling me racial slurs or like a snowflake or like a snowflake beta cuck, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool, like that's that side. And then I'll go over to Blue Sky and it's like, you know, I'll post something and then it's all just like it's sort of like how men fight versus women fight. Like the man will just be like, you suck, or punch you in the face or whatever. That's Twitter. And then on Blue Sky, it's like a lot of like mind games and like people saying that you didn't phrase something right, and like a really like complex kind of, but it's still toxic. It's just a very different like type of
brand of it. Yeah.
psychological toxicity rather than like the other one. And so I was going back and forth between these platforms and being like, wow, these are two terrible paradigms to exist in. Very different, but they're both like kind of hostile in their own way.
It was weird because it brought some of that out, which was weird to see. And, you know, I try to see all perspectives, and there's some people I talk to almost daily on there where them and I went back and forth, not in a negative way. It was like we're talking about. It was an agreeable conversation from different viewpoints, but it was weird. Some of the stuff, you're right. It was just like exactly what I'm pointing to is very odd. But anyway.
Yeah, like here's a good example that I just thought of is like if you reply to someone, they will think that you're attacking if you disagree, or that you're like crashing out and you're super emotional if you just like stated a different point of view. And so it's like this sort of thing where like things escalate really quickly on Blue Sky is what I found out, because if you disagree with somebody, they're like, oh, you're attacking this person and now we need to like attack you back. And it's like, whoa. That's not, you know, what my intention was. And so it can kind of get out of hand really quickly, but I don't know. I think it's funny. I think it's funny.
Yeah, you have to take it in stride.
I really do.
You have to take it in stride.
I wish people could see me when I'm typing these things, because the things people like, it doesn't affect me at all. It really just makes me laugh, I swear. But I know that doesn't come out. It's hard to make that come out on social media, but I do find it all very amusing.
I think the only ones that have ever affected me is I did get some kind of mob rundowns in relationship to some drama in the LawTube sphere.
Oh yeah.
And there's always people. There's always people looking for drama in any kind of personality or content creator that's doing anything in any subject in any industry. And I didn't understand this really before I started doing some content with the LawTubers. And this was primarily out of a friendship that I had formed when one of the legal commentators wanted to do an interview with me very early on in her channel's existence. And I invited her to come over onto Virtual Legality and have that interview so that people could be introduced to her. And that became a friendship. And then when she started doing the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial, I essentially pledged my support to be there as much as I could to help with that process. And she became very, very popular doing her coverage. Her coverage was fantastic, not because of me, certainly, but I was present for it. And so I got into this circle of friends that are great, and a number of them played Dungeons and Dragons with me on Lawyers and Dragons. But it also fostered this community of people that essentially wanted to see the world burn, wanted to see these friendly folks fight, or wanted to imagine worlds in which they were fighting behind the scenes. And this kind of spirals into Reddit posts and various things that say, oh, well, Hoeg must have done this on this video, and he's secretly scheming to do this and this and this. And it's like, man, I don't even have the planning capability, let alone the energy to pull this off, or the desire. But these conspiracies would wind up in these various places online, some of which are more unsavory than others. And I have such a sympathy for when I see that story now kind of unfold for other people that may be true, may not be true. It just doesn't matter. The truth is not a factor in the storytelling that some people put out there.
It's fanfic.
Because they're so entertained by this notion of the gladiators fighting and these various parasocial relationships that might actually be secretly hating each other behind the scenes. And it's just a crazy thing to me.
Do you ever feel like, here's something I've encountered a few times. It happened on Twitter like a month ago, and then it happened on Blue Sky like this week, where if I, as an IGN reviewer, respond to somebody, people think that because you are in a position where like you have more clout or what is perceived as clout. I have no clout. I don't think people are aware of that online, but I have zero clout. But I think people think they perceive, because I write for IGN, that I must have a lot of clout. And so if you respond to somebody, you're like in an adversarial or kind of like hostile motion. Do you ever get that? Like if you respond to like a person with a few followers who doesn't have a lot of clout just because you just decide you want to, do you ever get like pushback on that? Because I encounter that quite a bit, and to me it's bizarre, because if you look at my social accounts, I have like no engagement. Like nobody cares what I'm tweeting. I could tweet something insanely offensive right now and I probably wouldn't even nobody would notice.
Please
you know
don't
what I mean?
practice with this, Travis.
Dude, I'll do it right now. Watch.
Nope.
I'm just gonna quote Mein Kampf in my next post, and nobody will call me out on it at all.
I grant you your point. You do not need to demonstrate.
Very well.
Grant it.
Do you encounter that though?
The answer is yes, Travis. I don't have nearly the clout of an IGN, and I know you're getting clout like splash effect from your association with IGN. IGN's an interesting entity as it is, because it's big in our sphere. It's big in this circle. That does not make it big in like the world or world events. But people still think of it in that way if they are otherwise connected with this circle. But what I got a lot of as an older gentleman, as a seasoned gamer, is kind of on-the-fly etiquette lessons in what to tweet and what to retweet and who you should quote and when you cannot take a screenshot. And I got all these kinds of things that people got mad at me for doing things that I just was doing as the easiest method of getting a quote out there on a tweet, as a for instance. Like I know,
like quote tweeting somebody who's toxic, and they're like, don't tweet them.
You're platforming them, and you're as bad as they are for this, and all these various other things. I've gotten that bit. I've gotten in trouble for screenshots. I got in trouble very early on when I joined Twitter for espousing what I think are very kind of anodyne or uncontroversial philosophical statements of how to live as a human being, give or take, which were not taken well at the time, which earned me certain...
What were they? Do you remember?
Oh, yes. It was a discussion of like the punch and Nazi rhetoric and who gets to determine
people, and
who gets to determine who's a Nazi, and the definitional issues with that as a sliding scale and that kind of thing. And so that got me tarred with the Nazi brush. Nice. And that was one of my first forays into Twitter.
That means we can punch you.
Yes, indeed. That's the.
I was gonna say on Discord, kind of... my subtitle is "Forever Punching Nazis." So
yeah, I did notice that of you. Ames.
Yeah, just duck.
Okay, can we agree that if they're in Nazi regalia, it's okay? Is that a good line, Hoeg?
I mean, I think to the extent that they are identifying with the Third Reich in some form or fashion, that they are in fact Nazis. What I have an issue with...
Can you punch those? Can you punch those?
I have an issue with... Well, I'm not a big fan of vigilante justice in any respect, but I'm a lawyer.
I'll do it for us. I got this.
There you go.
But you agree that's more acceptable for like...
I don't have a strong position against punching actual honest-to-God Nazis. What I have a strong issue with is the definitional creep that happens when everybody you disagree with is a Nazi.
Yeah, I know. I get that. Yeah. And that, by the way, that's how I view it. Yeah.
Well, I think as people that know my channel know, my kind of watchword, the foundational phrase of my content is reasonable minds can differ, meaning primarily that somebody that has a difference of opinion with you is not de facto unreasonable, is not an other, is not subhuman, just because they're disagreeing. Doesn't mean
I ask about the qualifier reasonable, though?
Sure. Let's talk about reasonability.
To me, it seems to undermine the sentiment, because then, well, who gets to decide what's reasonable? You know what I mean? It's a qualifier for the philosophy in my mind.
Yeah, but it's a realistic one. It's the notion that there is a Platonic reason kind of standard, and that somebody can reason their way into seeing the world in a different fashion than you do, and that doesn't make them subhuman just by the nature of their difference of opinion.
But it leaves open for the room. Well, some people are unreasonable, and you don't have to respect those opinions, right?
And that's why I clarify the phrase as much
like real
as I can,
Nazis.
A lot of people come into the comments and say, well, but this guy is unreasonable, and so I can hate him, right? It's like, okay, Perhaps. There are certainly unreasonable people out there. There are bad faith arguments out there. I'm not telling you to just accede to everybody that's out there in the world, but as a starting point, we can assume a certain amount of good faith, and we can assume that the person that you are talking to that presents as a human being is in fact blessed with humanity, and you can start with that framework and then be proven wrong on that. And if they're proven to be unreasonable bad faith actors, go from there. But don't start with the premise that everybody that arrives at a different opinion from you is de facto subhuman.
Or Nazi, in my case, specifically.
Right. Well, I was using those interchangeably, but yes. Well, in any event, that was my introduction to Twitter. Right, is saying something along those lines. We got to watch our sliding definitions, that kind of thing, and having at least a small group call me a Nazi and whatnot.
Well,
and I said, well, all
in
right.
fairness, if you're not with me, you're against me.
Yeah, I don't think that's a great philosophical approach to living life either.
I don't know. Anakin Skywalker said it. Pretty cool guy.
He is definitely who you should follow philosophically.
That's right.
Cool
yeah.
Skywalker.
I mean, he did get to bang Natalie Portman. So, I mean, whatever I got to do to emulate that. You know what I mean? You
well,
get it.
He killed some kids. He had some thoughts on totalitarian
You want to make
governance.
an omelet? You want to make an omelet? You know?
It's Natalie Portman, Hoeg. I don't know
It's
if you
Natalie
heard who it
Portman,
was.
Hoeg. I mean, how many kids do we need? We're not using all of them, right?
I don't know what to say to that, gentlemen. I do understand the attraction.
Did you know she's like I mean, I don't know her obviously, but she speaks like, is it 7 or 8 languages? She's apparently
she's
like
Ivy League, right? Didn't
smart.
she go to Harvard?
Like, she's like, yeah, like, yeah.
Well, she's cool. She's cool.
She's top tier. All right, this is gonna be a weird cut, but it's
right.
fine.
So yes, more on how Natalie Portman is an exceptional philosophical starting point,
there you go.
taught by Anakin Skywalker.
That's
Perfect. Right. Hoeg just ended it. I don't even need to do any other editing at this point. But on that note, we're going to end this special episode, and we will have a second special episode for you. That's the way we're going to do it. So you get one each Sunday while we're gone. And we will see you next week for that, for more Anakin Skywalker and Natalie Portman chat, potentially. We'll see where it goes. See you next week.